What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It's time to continue our 2023 schedule preview and projected records for the 2023 college football season. And we continue them with the Michigan State Spartans. Here's the schedule last year for the Michigan State Spartans. You look at who they played in the non-conference. They played Western Michigan, Akron, and they also played Washington on the road. So they didn't have too tough of a non-conference schedule last year. Of course, that road game against Washington turned out to be a loss. And you look at who they played also in the Big Ten West. They played Minnesota at home, ended up losing that one. And they also played Wisconsin, and they also played Illinois on the road. So they had a pretty tough draw there out of the Big Ten West. You know, you had Illinois, who came close to winning it all last year in the Big Ten West. But there was the Big Ten West overall last year. It was really tough to predict. And, you know, there was not any really good teams out there in the Big Ten West. Not any top teams, but you look at Michigan State. This team went 5-7 last year. A disappointing team. This is a team that we thought that could make it into the college football playoff. Maybe be one of those playoff contenders heading into the 2022 season. But looking ahead now to 2023, I think this will be a better year for Michigan State. Maybe this was just a step back year for them. They have a lot of production coming back, so I mean, we could see Michigan State probably turn things around. Let's look now to the 2023 schedule for Michigan State. And you look at who they'll play in the non-conference. They'll play Central Michigan. They'll play Richmond here as well. And then they'll play Washington. This time it will be a home game there on September the 16th. So they got 3 non-conference games here to kick off the month of September. And you look at who they'll play in the Big Ten West. They'll play the Iowa Hawkeyes here on the road. That's a tough draw there out of the Big Ten West. And then they'll play Minnesota on the road. And they'll also play Nebraska at home. So they get a pretty tough draw there once again out of the Big Ten East. You know, Iowa wasn't a good team last year, but they could be probably better. You never know. But Minnesota on the road will be tough games there. So you got tough road games there with Iowa and Minnesota out of the West. But Nebraska obviously will be a home game. So it's not like a bad thing. So, I mean, Michigan State obviously tough draw though out of the Big Ten West. Let's now go game by game here for this Michigan State team. So you look at who they'll start the season off. They got 3 non-conference games to kick off the season. They got Central Michigan here on September the 2nd, then Richmond here on September the 9th, and then they'll play Washington here on September the 16th. And like I said, this is a home game for Michigan State, so it's kind of like a revenge game for this Michigan State team. Obviously, the game was not even that close last year. Hopefully it is this time, but Washington has a lot of production coming back, but this good news is, like I said, Michigan State will get this one at home. And then they'll play Maryland after that on September the 23rd. Then they'll go on the road to face Iowa here on September the 30th. And then they'll play the Rutgers after that. They'll get a bye week before playing that game on the road at Rutgers. You know, those are back-to-back road games. They're not tough back-to-back road games. Obviously, Iowa basically is a tough game on the road, but the Rutgers, they still have a long way to go before they compete in the Big Ten. This was a Rutgers team that was, you know, not even making it to a bowl game last year. They had some good wins, but they just weren't that good enough, so I don't really think this is a tough back-to-back road games here for Michigan State. And then they'll play rival Michigan here on October the 21st. Remember a couple years ago, Michigan State beat Michigan at home, so it could happen again. Obviously, the game was a lot intenser than it was, you know, over the years. So I think it will be more intense this time as we head into this matchup here in the month of October. And then they'll go on the road to face Minnesota on the road on October the 28th. That will be a tough game there on the road at Minnesota. I know Minnesota loses a ton of production, but I think this is going to be still a tough road game to play out of the Big Ten East. And then they'll play Nebraska here on November the 4th. Then they'll play back-to-back road games against Ohio State on November the 11th. And then they'll play Indiana on the road as well on November the 18th. So you got back-to-back road games here as well. I think these are the toughest back-to-back road games on here, but they do have really tough road games this year. Obviously, Iowa, it starts with them on September the 30th. I don't think the Rutgers is a tough road game, but you never know what can happen. Minnesota will be a tough place to play. And then you got Ohio State and Indiana in back-to-back road games here. Indiana wasn't that good of a team last year, but I think they really should be better than they were last year. They probably are going to be motivated. And then Michigan State will end things out here on November the 25th against Penn State, a Penn State team that does return a good amount of production coming back this year. So that's the schedule for Michigan State. It's not too tough of a schedule, but they do have some tough road games, just like I mentioned. But let's get to the projection now for this team. And this is the scale I pretty much use for my projections. If it's a 1% game, those are games where Michigan State has no chance of winning. 20% games, there'll be about a couple touchdowns of an underdog. 40% in the yellow, games where Michigan State's going to be about a touchdown of an underdog. 50-50 games, these are games where they can go either way. 60% games, these are games where Michigan State's going to be favored by about a touchdown. 80% games in the blue, games where Michigan State's going to be favored by a couple touchdowns. And then the 90% games, these are games where Michigan State's going to be favored by more than 3 touchdowns. And we always start with the green games here on these projections, so let's get right to the green games here for Michigan State. And I got 2 of those on the schedule. I got Central Michigan and then Richmond here. I think these are easy non-conference games here. Easy non-conference wins as well. For Michigan State, I really don't see any business for them to lose both of these games. Both of these games will be in the month of September to kick off the year, so I think they do take care of business in both of those games at home against Central Michigan and Richmond. These are 2 cupcake games here for this Michigan State team. They have no business to lose those, and I think those are the 2 games that they'll be favored by more than 3 touchdowns. All right, let's go to the games now where Michigan State's going to be about an 80% couple touchdown favorite in the blue. And I got 1 game on that schedule. It's the Rutgers on the road. I think the Rutgers are still a long ways to go before they compete in the Big Ten. I know they were kind of decent last year, but this is a team that still just has a long way to go before they do compete in the Big Ten and everything. And, you know, I really would have put this one in the purple, but I think the Rutgers, based off of where they were last year, I got to put this one in the blue. And like I said, this is just based off of the teams from last year. That's why we do these projections throughout these college football projections. That's why we pretty much, you know, go back and see what the teams are like from last year. But I think this is the only game that Michigan State will be about a couple touchdowns of a favorite, and that's on the road at the Rutgers. Let's go to the purple games now. Games where Michigan State's going to be favored by a touchdown, about 60% in the purple. And I got 3 of those on the schedule. I got Maryland here at home, and then Nebraska at home, and then Indiana on the road. I know Maryland was actually a pretty good team last year, but I'm going to put this one in the purple just because it's a home game for Michigan State, and I think their home field advantage will favor them. Nebraska here at home. Obviously, Nebraska going to be a different team this year. This will still be probably still a tough game. I think this will be a well-motivated Nebraska team, but as of right now, I'm going to put this one in the purple just because of where Michigan State was last year. And then Indiana on the road, I probably could have put this one as a 50-50 game, but as of right now, I'm going to favor Michigan State in this game. And just based off of where Indiana was last year, I have to put this one in the purple. So those are the games where I think Michigan State will be favored in. All right, let's go to the games now that they'll be an underdog in. Do I have any underdog games for Michigan State? Let's go to the orange games. I don't have any red games for them. And I just got 1 orange game on this schedule at 20%, and that's the Ohio State game on the road. I really don't see Michigan State pulling off a huge win here on the road. I know Ohio State's going to be different this year. You know, obviously C.J. Stroud is gone, but I think this will still be a tough place to play, no doubt about it. Obviously, it's really one of the toughest places to play, almost in the Big Ten Conference, and I just don't think Michigan State has a really good opportunity just yet. Maybe it could change to a yellow game by the time we do our predictions, but as of right now, I'm going to put this one in the orange. How about the games now where Michigan State's going to be an underdog in, a heavy underdog at yellow at 40%? And I got 1 game on the schedule, and that's Iowa on the road. I know Iowa wasn't that really good last year. They weren't quite good enough as we kind of, thought they were going to be. But instead, I'm going to put this one in the yellow. I think this is a pretty good game that Michigan State could win. I know it's on the road and all, but I think, from where Iowa was last year, I have to put this one in the yellow. I think it will be a game that Michigan State has a really good opportunity to win in. But as of right now, I'm going to put that one in the yellow. But like I said, it could change to a 50-50 game by the time we get into those predictions. And the rest of the games here for Michigan State on the schedule: Washington, Michigan, Minnesota on the road, and then Penn State at home. I think these are all games where they can go either way. Washington, obviously, the game wasn't that close last year, but with it being at home, I got to put this one in the white. I think it's a non-conference game. You never know what can happen. Michigan, obviously, a rival game. You never know what can happen. Minnesota will be a tough one on the road. That's a game that I probably could have put in the yellow, but I'm going to stick with it and put it in the white. And then Penn State, obviously, another rival game that just can go either way. So I think all these games right here are all pretty much 50-50 games. and those are the 50-50 games that I think will come down to the wire. All right, so let's get to the projected record for this team. This is not simply a prediction. This is simply a projection based on this schedule. So if you look at the games that Michigan State is favored in and also the games that they're underdogs in and the 50-50 games as well, the overall projected record for this Michigan State team comes out to be 9-3 for 2023. I know that's kind of higher than it was last year from their season, but like I said, I think it was just a step back year for this Michigan State team. I think they will be a better team this year. I think this schedule kind of sets up nicely for them, but they do have back-to-back road games against Ohio State and Indiana. Those are their toughest back-to-back. And I think they win 2 out of those 4 games on the schedule. They could probably win all those home games, maybe perhaps go 10-2, maybe perhaps go 11-1. That could be possible, but I think 8-4 is probably the worst-case scenario for them as of right now. But I think 9-3 is my projected record here for this Michigan State team. Let me guys know what you think about this Michigan State team. What do you think their projected record is as of right now? And stay tuned here for more sports content on the Lucas Ross Sports Channel.